plan in progress kind of thing, and developed a financial plan, a staffing service level plan, and then the equipment plan. And we had 5 components, had to do with how we're going to staff our personnel, because we wanted to maintain our service levels, get to you in under 6 minutes 90% of the time. We're at 95% usually. It varies month by month. Some days it's 93, because if it's a busier month it might drop down to 92, but you know, it's 94, 95, and we're doing well. We see our trend on our trend line of our call volume increasing, and as that goes up, then we need to increase our service levels. So we knew that we were going to go out for the local option levy, and we renewed the local option levy at 59 cents. That allowed us to put the second ambulance on 24 hours because of our call volume. So we're running an average, we were running 12 calls a day last year, we're running 13 calls a day this year. And just one more call is another 2 hours of vehicle out of service time. So by 13 calls, 24 hours in a day, 2 hours out of service time, the first out ambulance is gone 26 hours out of every day. So that means the second out ambulance is picking up some of those calls. Then the calls come in random, and so sometimes they're 2 at once and even 3 at once. 3 at once means mutual aid from Marion County or us going to Marion County into Salem. So more vehicles on the road, more wear and tear. My ambulances, my newest ambulance is 2008. It's a lemon, and so the next one is 15 years old, and the next one is 19 years old, and I can't keep those rotated. I need 3 to make 2.
Yeah. So you say that the 2008 one is a lemon.
Yeah.
Was this a matter of what was available at the time, what the district could afford when they bought it?
Yes, and we were also trying to be more cost effective because we bought a lighter chassis. Mm-hmm. It's on a Ford F450 chassis, a Ford pickup truck chassis, and we thought that we would rotate them more often. It wasn't supposed to be primary for so long, but because of the older units at the gap, we had to run it first out longer, so we put more miles on it faster. But then it was out of service for 9 months in 2013. We've had to borrow ambulances from Salem to keep them running. We need 3 to make 2. So that's where the levy brought us to the point where we got the staffing on the second medic unit. And then we got a grant from the federal government to hire 3 additional firefighters so that we had the engine company available. We run the ambulance call to call to call to call, and the ambulance gets the patient, transports. It gets the patient, transport, and they go back and forth. The engine bounces from call to call. And as it bounces from call to call, they are your labor force. There are 4 people on the engine. One's a student, 3 are career. And at night, they're volunteers. And they bounce from call to call throughout the shift and make sure that the patient gets cared for, loaded into the ambulance transports, they're available for the next call. The reason they take the engine is because one of those calls every 4 days is going to be a fire call. And we want to get to that fire call in under 6 minutes too. So when that call comes in, if they're there, they're in the engine, boom, they just go, and away they go. So as soon as we have more staffing available, but right now our minimum staffing is 7, 3 on the engine, 2 on each medic unit. And so then we augment with students and volunteers. So when I have more people, I have 4 on the engine, and then I run a rescue. And the rescue can bounce from call to call, unless they need more help. So where I'm going with this is that the levy funding, urban renewal went away. That was a huge help to us. And then we went through the funding and the staffing and the grants and each of those other things. That's the financial and the staffing level. None of that had anything to do with equipment. The equipment part, and we said so during the levy campaign, our operations are all about people, and it's our highest cost. The more people we have, the more efficient we are, the better we do. So our operations budget of the levy and the property tax directly pay for our staffing and keep us running calls all day long. We don't have any extra money to buy fire trucks. Now, fire trucks are expensive. They're $250,000 for an ambulance. Fire trucks can be $550,000. So, and a ladder truck, $1.6 million for a duplicate of the one that we have now. We bought that from Salem, so we want to refurbish that one. Our jaws of life and things like that are over 20 years old. We're operating on surplus equipment that we got from Marion County for our rescue equipment. We knew that that was the case. We were going to sacrifice equipment, let it go longer, let it be more aged, let it be more outdated in order to maintain the staffing levels. So that was part of our plan. We also knew that the fire station was going to be paid off by the bond in 2016. So in February, the fire station will be paid for by the bond we took out in 1996. As the bond from 1996 is paid off, now we own our own fire station. We simply want to replace it with a bond to buy fire trucks and ambulances. It's just that simple. And when we started out with numbers on the fire station, the bond rate was at 20 cents per thousand. And as Keizer assessed value came up, more taxpayers joining, and as Keizer grew, the rate that was needed in order to pay off that bond went down. It went from 20 cents over the course of 20 years down to 10 cents. For the largest majority of the time, the average payment on the bond for the Keizer Fire Station, the average was 16 cents. So now we want to go to the voters for a bond at 14 cents. And why did we pick 14 cents? Because that's what we need. We need $6.2 million worth of equipment. We need 5 ambulances. We need 3 fire engines. We want to refurbish the fire ladder truck instead of buy a new one. We want to get some of our EMS equipment updated. For example, the Life Pack, the cardiac monitors. One of those monitors is $35,000. And I really need to keep those in rotation. And so these are over 12 years old. So getting our EMS equipment, our rescue equipment, everything, and this all needs to be updated. And then the ladder trucks and each of those other things that are all part of the process with the fire trucks and the ambulances. And the ambulances is over 20 years. So you rotate them like shoes. I need 3 to make 2. And I'm having a hard time keeping the ambulances on the road right now. So those are the kind of things that we're working on. Happy to answer any questions.
So what happens with this 2008 ambulance you talked about? When you say it's lemon, do you mean as far as it's been kind of overused for the chassis it has, or is it just a lemon like you can buy a bad vehicle?
Yes, like you can buy a bad vehicle and for the wrong use. But I'll tell you one of the problems is this: it has design flaws in it. It has an oil cooling system with an oil filtration system. It runs the oil through this oil cooler, like a radiator runs water through it. It runs the oil through this system. Well, because of the wear on the engine, this cooling system, the vents are too small, and it literally clogged, and the vehicle overheated. And so now it's out of service, and they literally have to take the entire engine, take the chassis apart, take the engine out to get to the oil cooler inside the engine block, remove that, put an aftermarket unit in, put that together. That was $19,000 repair, and it was out of service for several months.
So is that in 2008? That's what was available, and who knew?
Well, in 2008, we could have bought another heavy-duty intermediate chassis like the Freightliners. When you see the Freightliners, the larger body chassis, those are literally, they're 500,000-mile vehicles. But, you know, we put that kind of mileage on our ambulances over the course of 15 years. And so that's why you try to rotate them at 15 years. And if you can keep the mileage down by saying, this one's first out for 5, and then it's second out for 5, and then it's third out for 5. You know, those kinds of things, and then it's rotated in to allow you to service. You got to do lube, oil, filter, brakes, maintenance.
So then what happens with this lemon of ambulance after the new ones come in, and you've already...
It'll be the first ambulance to be replaced.
And you've already ordered some ambulances before this bond?
We had to do an emergency ambulance purchase in order to do that, but we had to use operational funds to do it. What allowed was we had a one-time benefit from urban renewal going away that allowed us to pay for the first ambulance there, because I've got an ambulance from Salem sitting in our bay. I'm down to 2 ambulances, and one's in the shop, 2 are in the shop, and you know, just trying to get 3 ambulances ready to rotate. So while I'm trying to keep those ambulances on the road, we're looking down the road and saying we're not going to get there till 2016 for a bond. You know, we're going out in November 2016. The funds would be available, and it takes 9 months for an ambulance to be built. We're not going to make it. That's just too far out there to reach. So we ordered one, did an emergency purchase, and we did that in September. And we used the urban renewal funds. We would like to pay ourselves back. If the voters approve this bond, we'd like to put that money back in our operations budget so that we can continue our service levels. Another ambulance is on order because one's not going to solve my problem. I've got to have 3 to make 2. So we have a second one on order that would be here in April or May. If the bond doesn't pass, we'll have to lease that ambulance over a 20-year lease. We'll pay $20,000 a year lease for that ambulance to keep it up and running. The truth is, we're not going to get out of the ambulance business anytime soon.
No.
And so we've got to maintain our service levels. We've got to maintain vehicles that keep out there and keep them responding. So with those kinds of numbers and that kind of wear and tear, we had to do an emergency purchase to do that. If the bond is approved, we'll pay ourselves back from the bond proceeds and put that money and pay for those 2 ambulances off the bond.
This is being done in shifts as far as the money coming in. Explain a little bit how that works again.
We talked about stacking bonds. I want to, by all means, introduce Board President Joe Van Meter. He's allowed me to do all the talking this morning. He's very gracious about that. With those kinds of things going on, we've talked about the bond proceeds and how you can make bonds available. We don't need everything all at once. I don't need 5 ambulances tomorrow. I don't need 3 engines tomorrow. I don't need all of these things. We can phase them in. So consequently, we could buy our first line, our primary emergency stuff, our rescue, our grass rig, and the emergency equipment, of course. But we can phase in the engines, we can phase in the ambulance. We're going to rotate them in over 20 years. So the first bond is smaller. And then while you have a financed car at that point, you can go buy the second half of the bond for the stuff that you need at 10 years. And now you have 2 stacked bonds, and so that would allow the rate to go even further. And if there was other equipment at the end of that, you could even go with a 3rd stack bond. We've phased that out, we've costed out, we have an excellent response from Special District Association of Oregon, who goes through and helps you with your bond counsel and your bond advisors. And we have it capped at 14 cents. The average for the fire station was 16 cents. The average for this one will be 14 cents. And we've put all those things together, and that's how we'll keep the cost down, by not taking it all out at once. And we didn't ask for more than what we needed.
So, can I assume then that an ambulance is not an ambulance? It's not like you're going to American Ambulance store and going to the showroom and say, I want that one.
Exactly.
So every ambulance you see on the road anywhere in this country has been built specifically for whoever ordered it.
Yeah, they're custom built, and for what your needs are. And what we've identified our needs are is we need the heavy-duty ambulance, which is on the Freightliner chassis. We need them to go for 500,000 miles, 500,000 miles. That's where they need them to be heavy-duty because we carry fire equipment on them. All of our paramedics are also firefighters. So that's why you see the medic unit go to the fire scene. You've got 2 firefighters on there. They carry their bunker gear and their breathing packs, and as they arrive, they can have their gear and away they go. They also have all the equipment in the back of the ambulance to take care of a patient while they're there, and they have a whole second set of equipment that they can take out that makes it portable. So the idea is that we come to your emergency and have everything that we need in order to do their job. If we have to go hike over the hill to do it, we got portable stuff to do it with. When we get you into the ambulance, we've got enough equipment to take care of you, those heart monitors and things that help breathe for you and maintain your blood pressure, multiple cardiac medications, and we can replace blood loss and fluids. You know, our paramedics are critical care paramedics, and they're dual role as firefighters. And the advantage of that is that they can respond to rescues, fires, car crashes, and medical emergencies. The overwhelming thing of everything we do is EMS. We'll run 4,100 EMS calls this year. We'll only run 60 fire calls. You just never know when the fire call is going to happen.
Right.
So, maybe you can just speak to this a little bit. Considering that this will be new vehicles coming in built for you, how will there be upgrades to like what you'll be doing in the vehicle, like on an ambulance or with, maybe, because you talked about the
Yes.
heart monitor. Can you speak a little bit more about, what sort of technology upgrades you'll be getting as a result of the new vehicles?
Heart monitor, EKG monitors in itself over the last 25 years has changed a lot. We used to do what was called one lead EKG, where it just looked at your heart from one angle. And now the next version was a 12 lead EKG, which puts a compass on your chest and looks at your heart from each angle of the electronic mechanical contractions of the heart as your heart contracts, and tells you whether or not you're having a heart attack. Now there are 24 lead, 32, 36 lead EKGs that microscopically divide you and look at your heart from every angle and even a three-dimensional angle and diagnose your heart's condition. This is a heart attack. This is a situation. Here is the EKG rhythm with the readout. So just like you would have a heart attack in an emergency room of a hospital, the first thing they do is they do a 12-lead EKG and evaluate that. These monitors are allowing you to do that in the field, the same thing. But they're very expensive. And then, so what we're doing now is manually, with an older version, an outdated version, we're manually moving EKG electrodes around your heart in order to do that 12-lead EKG, placing those all into position and trying to take a look. It's kind of reminds me of flash photography. But you got the guy over here and he holds the lighter and it goes boom, and they take a picture. Right? I'm just trying to be cute, but out of those points, that's the kind of technology we're talking about. So on the ambulance itself, the lights on the ambulance, the emergency lighting around, has upgraded and changed. Everything is LED lights now, and you can see that if you just go to change the headlight on a CLB bulb, and remember the halogen bulbs and all those other things that were really, really expensive, LED lights are low voltage, they're long life, and they're very visible. And you can get them in any color you want, which we've already proven that reds and blues are the highest visibility that are out there instead of just flashing white lights. All of those technology has new electronics, new radios, new wiring, new lighting, all of those things that make the vehicle safer, plus the longer lifespan that we'll have with it on the heavier duty chassis. Those are the kind of things, and obviously these upgrades are going to have increased costs, but I think the value is there because the lower technology units, they're higher maintenance. We just put a new engine in one of our medic units that is going to become our third out engine, our third out ambulance. And the ambulance that we've decided to do that is actually our oldest ambulance. Mm-hmm. So the newer technology will be phased in on the ambulances, and then we can send them down the road. But actually the 2008, the newest ambulance, will be the first ambulance we eliminate from the fleet because of its out of service time, unreliability issues, and some of those other things. It's nothing worse than having an emergency call and someone calls 911, you get in your rig, it won't start, it won't go, or you have to call another ambulance to the scene because your ambulance just...
And that's precious time that's being wasted.
Absolutely.
So what do you do with a vehicle like that then? I mean, you...
Donate it to the big toy.
You know, that's a great idea. I hadn't thought of that. You know what? That's a great idea. If you didn't hear that, that's Lindsay saying, donate that to Big Toy. Well, you can't use it as an emergency vehicle at that point. And you know, it's like selling your friend a used car. Would you sell your friend a used car that you're afraid won't be reliable and leave them stuck in the middle of nowhere? And so it could be used maybe something that's safer, something less, you know, like an ice cream truck or something along that line, you know, where it's something that would be there. And, you know, for kids and things like that, that's actually a really neat solution that we would look at.
I'm sorry to go back to the upgrade thing, but
No,
I'm curious how that...
I missed anything.
No, well, I'm just curious, how does that carry over to other things like the Jaws of Life?
Exactly.
You know, I'm assuming that those also have advanced since you bought the last pair.
They are. The original Jaws of Life that we had was paid for by Keizer Rotary 25 years ago.
Wow.
And it's a monster. And it's heavy. It's you know, you can lift a building with it. It's awesome. But it's old technology. It's old hydraulics. When those lines rupture, they go boom and they throw hydraulic fluid all over the place. The couplings are difficult. And the motors, the pumps that are reliant. All hydraulics have valves, all of those things wear, and over time, they become less reliable. New technology, you know, things like the new Jaws of Life, are made with titanium instead of steel. And the titanium is stronger than steel, but lighter. And now one person with this unit that can cut and can spread and can move equipment apart, pry open doors on a vehicle, and those kinds of things when people are entrapped inside. Not only they're lighter, they're faster, they're stronger. The hydraulics have a single hose line that has what's called core technology, where the hydraulic fluid flows down the center and pumps back on the outside. It's really amazing, all in one line, so it's a quick connect. And so you can have it plumbed into the vehicle so that, you know, you're now going out on a tether, and as the engine pulls up, a tethered unit comes off the engine, comes out, and snaps the door off just like that, and you reach your victims and help people. It's really exciting things. And so the Jaws of Life was a community term that we used to use, but all of those represent a brand. and SANAM rescue equipment, who's right here in our area, is the people that put together this rescue technology, and we're local vendors that are helping us out.
On the firefighting side, so part of this is going to refurbish the 100-foot ladder truck.
Yes.
Hasn't that truck had its many repair and maintenance problems since we got it?
We rebuilt the top half of the engine. We call that an in-frame overhaul. Not surprising on an 18-year vehicle. And that's something you would do in the refurbishment process. So since we've already done that on this one, we don't have to do that as part of the refurbishment. What's exciting about the ladder truck is that it's like the concrete foundation of a house. And our ladder truck it's a battle wagon. I really like that. It's an aircraft carrier. So literally what we're going to do is they're going to, when you talk about the lighting and the electronics, the hydraulics, all of that is redone on the ladder truck. They'll actually take the ladder off, redo all of the valves, all the hydraulics, all of those different points, and it'll even get repainted McNary blue. And for $500,000 instead of $1.6 million for a new one, for a third the cost, and we'll get 10 to 15 years out of it. And the partnership that we have in Salem of automatic mutual aid means that Salem will come here with their ladder truck if we need them, and we'll go there with our ladder truck if they need us. And we have about 6 or 8 times a year. We'll go to Salem when they have a large fire and go back them up. And that kind of cooperation saves the community money. We have a ladder truck that is of the quality that we need. Our previous ladder truck wouldn't reach the roof of McNary High School. And we've got buildings in Keizer that require this. I know people don't necessarily recognize that, but if you're talking about the hotel here in Keizer, that is one that the ladder truck would work, pick a school. And what the ladder truck allows you to do strategically, it's not just about getting to the roof. It also puts what's called an aerial master stream. You can't, if a Roth's building's on fire and the fire is burning through the center, you can't put firefighters on the roof. You can't put firefighters inside. How are you going to get water to the seat of the fire? So you come into the air, and now your master stream shoots straight down into the seat of the fire with enough power to snuff the fire out. And that's really exciting things that the ladder truck can do that other vehicles can't. A lot of folks think that it's just to reach up there and get people out of windows. Really, it's allow firefighters to get to you to put the fire out or rescue you, and put an aerial master stream in place.
How much will the new vehicles, once you have them all online, how much will that help as far as working with other jurisdictions, whether it be Salem or Marion County or anyone else?
Marion County doesn't have a ladder truck, so we do mutual aid with them as far as the ladder truck goes. Salem has 2 ladder trucks in town. Well, they have to be maintained, or if both of them are tied up on a fire, then we're now covering Salem and Marion County with our ladder truck, because the next nearest ladder truck is in Woodburn and Staten. So by having that right here in the core value area, that we can protect it, and the density, population density, that it's there and available. And I have to tell you another standpoint, from a fire chief standpoint, your firefighters love that truck. That's the real big dog in the show, and they really love working at that level. And the technology that's there, the challenges as a firefighter. You know, you want to play quarterback on the football team once in your life, and that's playing quarterback on the front of the firefighter. You know, that's exciting things for firefighters from their perspective.
Joe, to bring you into this a little bit, when these type of options are being discussed at the fire board level, and I believe you guys had a committee set up to look at this. Talk a little bit about the discussions that were held and how this decision was made to go for this particular level of bond.
As the chief said, we had been on a work plan for the last 5 years, and it was we brought in a consultant, sat down with the community group, including all the fire board members and the budget committee members, and went through what are our future costs going to be and how can we best address these based on the rate of growth that the community was having. The group at that time decided they didn't want to go out for a bond. We could have gone out at that point 5 years ago, but we would have doubled up. We would have double stacked bonds, and we would have had one paying off the fire engine or the fire station, and then also one for equipment. The group did not think that was a good idea. They thought that it would be better to get the staffing up, to wait for the bond to be paid off and then move forward with another bond, so that we didn't double stack on taxpayers in Keizer. So thus we have this, and there's been lots of work groups in between that first group and the board. The old board and the new board have both looked at this, and it's the map that we're going by. Hopefully the community will step up and support the bond measure so that we can be good and solvent in Keizer for 20 years on equipment.
Is there anybody, any group out there that's saying, nah, we don't need to do this?
We're not aware of any organized opposition. Matter of fact, we've been receiving wide range support. The Keizer Chamber has supported us. The neighborhood associations have supported us. Gubser, McNary, West Keizer neighborhood associations have told us to support us. And the businesses, of course, support us because this is part of their protection that keeps them up and running and solvent. So it's a good community-based project that everybody can be proud of and something we can hold up. Every time we have a plan, we put that together and we bring in a citizens advisory committee. And 24 people from the community, we bring in city councilors and we bring in Rotarians and school district folks and community folks from the neighborhood associations.
Even neighborhood or newspaper people occasionally.
Occasionally they'll come too. And then when we bring those together, we say, here's our plan, here's what we want to do, what do you think? And then they come back and tell us. And of course when you get a diverse group like that, it's never unanimous, but you know, we've been as close as you can get to unanimous on both our operating levies, service levels, and this plan for a bond. The most common phrase I've heard folks say is that this is a no-brainer. You paid off the station, now you need ambulances and fire trucks.
And we were hoping that strategy would work from the board level. We didn't think that it was from our own taxes, that we wanted to have another 14 cents added on to what we already had. So we think this is a good strategy. We're very fiscally responsible, I think, at the board level, and we have a fiduciary responsibility to watch the money, to make sure the money's there, to make sure that we're not overspending, and yet we have a responsibility to keep equipment up to date so that we can get to your place in within 6 minutes when there's a fire or a medical emergency. Those are from the board's perspective, that's our responsibility. We need to make sure that we have the personnel and the equipment available for the fire chief so that we can deploy when there's an emergency in the community. And that happened this week on my street, 2 houses down. Something plugged in the garage, burned up, and the fire went up, and we've got the Keizer police involved on either end, closing off the street so people don't come down it. We've got 2 fire engines and a medic unit, and then the chief came up at the end to just kind of make sure everything was going. Chesterton's loved it. I mean, he was sitting there going, gosh, I wish you could have been here in 3 minutes, but you made it in 5, and that's great.
Yeah.
One of the things you mentioned was, we talked about a little bit about technology and these rigs lasting 15, 20 years. When you look at vehicles overall, how quickly vehicle technology can advance, like we have all these hybrids these days. You have, whether it be the consumer vehicles, or you have some of the Porsches with hybrids, race cars with energy recovery systems. How do you I guess first of all keep up on the trends in technology, and are there things like hybrid or hybrid-like technologies in these type of vehicles either now or down the road?
There's a lot to technology, and all of us, I'm sure, can relate to that. The fact I'm sitting here while you have a handheld digital camera that can go through and splice this onto social media, and that we're not available 15 years ago. And or 5. And I'm sitting here with an iPhone that can now be notified every time Keizer, Marion County, or Salem has a call. I'm getting it on there. I used to have to carry a VHF radio, an alphanumeric pager, and a VHF pager that would be an alerting device, 3 devices, and they're all here now digitally, online, available to me, and now it's all about communications. So that communications technology fits right into the new apparatus, where GPS was a handheld secondary device. Now it's incorporated into your system of your unit. All of the units now, where our mapping system, our radio technology, We don't have to go en route to a call anymore. You don't get on the radio and say, I've arrived, I'm here. You push a button and it says you're here. None of that radio traffic happens. Now the radio waves are available to communicate and say, this is what I have, and this is where I'm at, and this is what's going on. This is what I need.
And to piggyback on that just a little bit, the other jurisdictions, Marion County, Woodburn, and Salem, have updated their equipment. And for us to be able to stay on the same loop, we need to have the same kind of equipment. And it's a group effort. I mean, it's not somebody going off and starting. They're going, okay, this is what we want to work towards. We want to work towards the latest equipment available so that we can communicate as a group, so that we can make sure the public's safe. In Marion County, Salem, and Keizer work together very well.
Okay, I'm glad you brought that up. So we all know what happened during 911 in New York. Nobody could talk to each other. So that is not an issue here. If there is a disaster of some sort, God forbid, a train explodes and everybody needs to respond. So Keizer can talk to Marion County, can talk to Salem, can talk to Keizer Police, can talk to the state police, the sheriffs. Can all the public safety organizations talk together at an emergency?
I wish that was an easy answer of yes. It's not. You've got state agencies, you've got county agencies, you have fire agencies and law enforcement agencies. Among the law enforcement agencies, they can all talk to each other among law enforcement. Among fire agencies, we can all talk to each other. The challenge is trying to get law enforcement and fire cross-communicating to each other, and you have different cross-purposes. Law enforcement is worried about safety like we are, but different issues for law enforcement for safety. We're worried about safety, different issues, safety of our people, safety of our citizens, and now you've got a different motivation. I'm trying to put the fire out. They're trying to keep the scene safe, and there may be criminal activity involved. Some of those cross-purposes, you don't necessarily want everybody talking on the same channel at the same time about the same thing. So what we have is the best that I'm aware of is that you have law enforcement communications and fire communications in the same building with people in the same room that you're communicating with. So I'm communicating through the 911 dispatch center to law enforcement. And in Keizer, we have the ability to go fire to police directly across and talk to each other on the same scene. But I can't talk to Salem, so when we arrive in Salem, they provide us with those radios. And that works out really well. And so, but what they do is they give us the radios and bring us onto their system. In the statewide system, where are we going nationally? Nationally, we're looking at a system that would go through and have police, fire, first responders on a national level communication system that we'd be able to communicate at that level. And so that's come through Congress and funding, and I think you're going to see that in the next 5 years, where you'll see a national level emergency communication system that is up and running. And so as technology evolves, even if you put that together today, we both know that this technology is going to keep going faster and faster.
Right. If Congress does something like that, I would imagine a lot of federal dollars would pay for that, but the local jurisdictions would still have to pay something.
There is a communications component in this bond for us.
Okay.
And it has to do with radio upgrades and our mobile data computer upgrades in our system. Right now we're using laptops, mobile data computers that are very similar to this, same size. It's a Panasonic device. It is the same technology they're using in Operation Desert Storm, but that's 10-year-old technology. Now you've got touchscreen technology, you have iPad technology, and that's where we want to get to, is where the iPad is now your communications device, where it's in front of you responding to the call, you're pushing buttons, I'm on scene, this is what I need and this is where I'm at. You can pull it out of the vehicle, walk out, take a picture, send that to everybody around you so that they know what you're looking at, and now you come back and after the call, you're there, can I get your name, can I get your information, and that kind of things, and you can share that information amongst us. I can email it to the state fire marshal office, he can email me back. Bring all those things together, and that kind of networking is the kind of thing we're seeing develop in the industry. And you ask me, how do we get that information? Well, we have to travel sometimes to get it. Today, I have a person at a National Fire Conference that is looking at the new updated ambulance technology that is coming out for the future trade shows and some of those other things. The Oregon Fire Chiefs also has a technology committee where they go through and they look at, is this the best way to do things? Is this most efficient? The League of Oregon Cities, Special Districts Association all have conferences where they get together. Vendors are there showing the new equipment modalities, communications, fire technology. But the truth is, we're still putting water on fires. And so we've got to have the efficient ability to get there. And none of that stuff puts out fires. It's people that put out fires. So that's the thing that's going to be
But I think it's important that we keep, as a fire district, that we keep current with what the new technology is and how we can implement it in the local community. One of the things that the chief mentions was special districts. We're a member of them. They provide, of that organization, they provide us with our insurance at a reduced rate, which I think is a fiduciary responsibility that we have at the board level, to get the best bang for the buck. They also do training. And we have 3 board members going to training next month in Seaside to talk about leadership issues, to talk about budgeting issues, to talk about response issues and coordinating issues at that conference. So we're trying to keep Keizer Fire District, and I think we're doing a good job of that, current, with leadership information, with mechanical information, equipment information. We contract with Salem Health for our physician, and he comes and reviews, so we try to keep everything as current as we can. And I think we're doing a good job. We're a little behind on the equipment, but it was a conscious decision on our part to wait until there was not 2 levies taxing people.
you're always looking for the best vehicle to communicate your needs, how you're doing, those kinds of things. And we try to network with everybody around us, and that's the best and strongest ability. The more people that you're linked in with for the city, for the county, for the state, for your community members and each of those other things, we try to be a part of all of those aspects. And I invite anybody to reach out to us if they have information they think is relevant to us, if they have an opinion to us. We're on Facebook, Keizer Fire District on Facebook. We have our webpage, www.keizerfire.com, and we're available on each of those points, and we want to make ourselves available to our community members. Me personally, I'm available to our community members. My number and my email is right there if you have some advice, and my board of directors take their job very seriously about their responsibilities and their service to the community. So that's what we're here for. I work for you, and that's what my goal is.